Hey guys, welcome back to the Unhealed Woman Podcast. I am Jaquana and I have my girl Kania with me today. We are going to jump back into the subject of renewing of the mind. This will be part two. As you recall, I did part one by myself, but I thought it was best that I bring somebody else on that has some insight on this matter as well. So I'll have Kania introduce herself, and then we'll get started with our questions.
Okay, hey guys, I'm Kania. I feel well, I'm gonna say I know Quana because one of my high school best friends, Kobe, is her older sister. So, I'm really excited to be on her podcast, really excited to give each other our inputs on the topic. And I'm super proud of you for, go ahead and pursuing this podcast. So yeah, I wanted to say that as well.
Awesome. Yes. Yeah, when you reached out, I was excited because I know that we both have dealt with some type of mental health in
Right.
our past. So I think that it's good that we move past maybe some trauma and things that we've experienced and share our experiences and things that we have used to help us through our process in order to help other people heal and maneuver their mental health, whatever they may be dealing with mental health. So thank you for joining.
Thanks for
So
having
I'll
me.
I'll go into my first question.
Okay.
And my first question is, what does renewing of the mind mean to you?
So that's funny because that was one of my questions for you too. But I would say renewing of the mind to me means elevating yourself from a place that might not have represented you before. Meaning we all have trauma, we all have things that we went through that have changed us or molded us into different people or have molded our way of thinking, our way of interacting with others. So I feel like to me, renewing your mind is to overcoming that trauma and not letting it consume you and being able to maneuver through your pain and your trauma, but still being able to like grow and becoming the best version of you and not letting that past and that trauma like stay on you, if that makes sense, like consume you.
Yes, absolutely. And so I'll go ahead and answer that too. So that way we'll knock that out. I agree with everything you said. I believe the renewing of the mind, I always take it back to strict scripture. So like the Romans 12 and 2, um, it says, do not be conformed to the pattern of the world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. And then you will be able to test and approve what God's will is and his good and pleasing and perfect will. So when you are renewing of the mind, I think it does have to do like personally with our taking our tests, our trials, and things that we have gone through and creating a purpose like we're doing right now
Right.
to help others and to walk in God's will and purpose for our lives. A lot of the times, the things that we do go through are they're happening for us to
Mm-hmm.
make us better. They're not happening to us. So, and that's another thing that I want to talk about later is coming from a fixed mindset into um, what is the other one? From fixed mindset to a growth mindset. And so
Mm-hmm.
we change our perspective of, okay, this is happening to me to this is happening for me. That's
Right.
what our purpose, comes
Kind
in.
of changing that like victim mindset, like not kind
Yeah,
of changing that and making it more positive than negative.
exactly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Exactly, yes. And then in doing all of this too, if we use the word or scripture to renew our mind and we begin to walk in a light of that of God, then He will be able to direct our path and show us the will that He has for us. Because sometimes we can be led by our trauma and our experiences in the wrong direction.
Right.
So I feel that once you do dig into um, your identity, which essentially you'll learn in the Bible of who you are, who God is, who your dad is, and then walking in that light and using your trauma and your past things that you've been through as a light for somebody else's path.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Agree.
Yeah. So that's what I would say. Um, and then I'll let you go into your next question.
Okay. So one of my questions was I wanted to ask you, how was it like going through the things that you went through, and then like becoming a mom, and then like becoming a wife, and then like having to like, you feel me, like not necessarily like having to be like a, a great mom, a great wife, but still battle your own thing. So like how are you, because I'm sure it's an everyday process, so how are you able to maneuver through that and still like present yourself as a great mom, a great wife, a great woman?
So let's just say by God's grace, because I don't know what I would do if I wasn't like spiritual in my book, in my Bible, and praying over myself and over my family the way that I do. It would be very hard. It's still challenging because
Right.
um when it comes to being a mother, I'm a mom of two girls. So just going through some of the things that I've gone through, I have to be careful not to project my trauma onto them.
Okay.
Where, yes. So I have to be careful and mindful of letting them experience their journey, but not trying to project things onto them that has happened to me in my
Right.
past.
Right.
With as far as being a wife, of course, in any relationship, um, when you've experienced a lot of things in your past, or you guys have experienced things in your past, moving forward is definitely a renewing of the mind that is something you don't understand unless you're in it.
Right. Yeah.
So, it is a challenge. I think that gratitude and staying focused on the positive rather than the past and the things that you've been through. Yes, feel that, experience that, whatever emotion it gives you, but don't sit in it and don't allow it to, kind of run your present.
Yeah.
Like, yes, this happened. Okay,
Right.
now let's move forward, but in a
Right.
different mindset. And so you have to daily recondition your mind to think that I'm not living where in my past, but I'm in a new mindset, a new realm.
Right. Makes
Which is it's a lot.
It is. It is. It is. It definitely
But
is. That's why I was just like, I want to ask this because
it's
especially
multifaceted.
with, and I feel like like you said, especially with you being a mom of two girls, like I feel like that is like that right there, because it's like, of course, as a mom, you want like to like steer your kids from any type of pain, trauma, anything. So it's just like I don't want you to have to go through this, but at the same time, like you said, you do have to allow them to live their life and live on their journey and
Mhm.
use your trauma as like a wisdom rather than trying to project it on them or like a
Right.
fear. Yeah.
Right. And then just when looking at them, just understand that they're not traveling the same path that you traveled. This is a whole different
Exactly.
game.
Right.
So you just have to kind of go, I don't want to say go with the flow, but kind of just monitor where they are, what they're dealing with, and help them through that. But don't necessarily say, okay, well, if you continue to do this, then you're probably gonna be just like me or something like.
Just like this. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Like, yeah,
not
that's not going to happen.
necessarily.
Right. Yeah. No, that's not going to happen.
So yeah, just not projecting things onto them is one of the biggest things, and then having patience um and learning two little people is a
And that
lot.
they're their own persons.
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. That's,
Yep.
yeah, I
So
definitely agree.
I'll go into my next question. What are some of the steps that you are currently taking or have taken to renew your mind?
Well, for one, I'm actually in therapy. I started therapy like a couple of years ago, right when I actually like when I was I'm 26 now, so when I was like 22, I was like, okay, I want to get into therapy. I'm gonna try therapy. And then I remember I went to my first session and I literally left an emotional wreck. Like I was like all over the place. So I was just like, this is not for me. I don't think I need to do therapy. It's just I'm leaving more sad than I walked in. Like I don't think I need to do this.
Yeah.
So I feel like once I got to the point to honestly, I got to the point to where I was tired of my own stagnant. Like I was tired of being my own problem. Like I was tired of getting in my own way. So
Hmm.
it's just like even though like like it's like I'm used to I'm used to having this like survival mindset to where it's just
Mhm.
like I'm not gonna let this. I'm gonna just keep this under the rug, and I'm gonna just keep going, keep going, and keep going, and
Yep.
eventually keep going is becoming overwhelming. And it's like when I have a breakdown, I'm not even having a breakdown from one thing; it's from all this other stuff that I've just thrown under the rug, you know. So it's just
Right.
like, and then it also started to like affect my relationship with my friends, with my family, with my boyfriend, or whatever the case may be. So it was just like I just got tired of honestly being in my own way. And it was just
Hmm.
like, okay, so if you're gonna keep, yes, you like you said, yes, you went through this, but either you're gonna stay there or you're gonna fix it, or you're gonna let this be a lesson and use it to become better. But if you stay
Hmm.
there, then you're gonna continue living in this cycle. So
Exactly.
that's what made me be like, okay, you know what? I'm gonna find a church here in Charlotte. I'm gonna really take the. I'm not gonna base me going to church with my grandma, with my mom. I'm gonna take the initiative to really go on my own and establish my own relationship with
Yes.
God. And I'm also going to. I'm going to start from the ground up, meaning I'm going to go to therapy and I'm going to figure out what is the problem, and then I'm going to find the root of the problem and really try to understand it and not feel bad for myself, but also use that to improve. So I would say, yeah, I would say getting closer to God and enrolling myself in therapy was one of like the biggest things. And I would say, of course, I've always had a relationship with God because of I grew up in church, you know, my family, stuff like that. But like I said, I wanted to start developing my own relationship with God. I wanted to go to church because of me. I wanted to find a church that I liked and get involved in church that, just for me. So
Hmm.
I feel like once I started to do that, and it's crazy because literally last Sunday was the first Sunday that I went to the church in Charlotte that I found. And I
Hmm.
literally feel like the the pastor's word was like for me. It's like
Hmm.
he was talking about being in your own way, and he was talking about like if you don't have a vision and you have all these dreams and like aspirations and you don't really take care of yourself, it's going to be really hard for you to maneuver through those or really keep like God not going to bless you if you don't feel like you're ready for it. You know what I'm
Hmm.
saying? So I was like, it's a lot of things that I want to do. I have a lot of dreams and things that I want to do, but in the same time, like I wouldn't want God to give it to me and I mishandle it. So
Right.
I gotta be prepared for what I'm asking him for. So that's why I'm like, okay, therapy, getting closer to him, like really doing self love, journaling, like working on my reactions, like just being very self aware is like important to
Yeah.
overcome this.
Yes. Yeah. There was 2 points that you said. The act of probably finding like coping mechanisms to keep yourself from dealing with the stuff head on. Like I know for me, alcohol was one of my things where I would just drink to avoid having to deal with myself.
Right.
But I think, and I'm gonna speak about our men real quick because I think that men, we love you. However,
Right.
I think that a lot of them growing up were taught to just suppress their feelings, man up, be tough, don't deal with stuff. So
Right.
now I feel like they're in a continuous cycle of cycling through women, but not dealing with whatever trauma they may have built up. Not sitting with themselves, learning themselves, loving on themselves before, um, I don't know, I guess putting that trauma onto other people or the ladies or whatever the case may be, or their family members or their kids, whatever it may be. And I think women, we do that too because we have to, we're the nurturers. We're the ones
Right.
that are supposed to take care of everybody. So
Right.
we neglect ourselves in doing that sometimes when we overpour, but we're not being poured into or we're not healing the way that we should. We kind of suppress those. And the feeling that you got when you went to therapy was that you couldn't really face yourself yet. I-
Exactly. It was too much.
So
Yeah.
yeah, it was a lot.
Mhm.
It's a lot.
It is a lot, especially when you doing your shadow work and you bringing up stuff that you completely force yourself to forget. It's like, whoa.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So I did a live, I think it was yesterday, where I talked about us suppressing our feelings. Like when something bad happens, we tend to put it in the back of our head and try to forget it and move on and not have to deal with it head on. But it's essential that we face that, we feel those feelings, we determine what the root is, which is what you talked about too, what the root of that issue is, or the root of that anxiety, that root of the depression, which could go way back to childhood, which is why therapy is so important because
It
they will
is.
literally find stuff that you have totally forgotten about
Right.
when it comes to childhood that's affecting you today in your adulthood. I know that a lot of sexual assault people, including myself,
Mm-hmm.
um, it affects you in your relationships later on. Not being able to be comfortable or feel valued or
Mm-hmm.
accepting less than what you deserve stems from things like sexual assault or being valued in that manner.
Mm-hmm.
So reaching back to that and dealing with it and reminding yourself of your value, which the book, I'm telling you, the Bible is all there.
Mm-hmm.
It's all
Yeah, I'm
in.
sure.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I
Just
actually just, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
it's okay.
I was gonna say, I actually, it's funny that you said the Bible because I have tried to, my grandmother gave me a Bible, right? And I tried to like read it and I couldn't because I couldn't really understand. So then I
Mhm.
went on, I went on Amazon and it's crazy. I was on Amazon ordering makeup for my business or whatever. And it was like a woman's Bible that came up and it was like, it's basically the Bible, but it's I guess a more clearer version to where you can understand it better, and it has to where you can like take notes in it. And I
Mhm.
literally ordered that, and I'm excited to. I mean, because I honestly I would say I've never read the Bible. I haven't,
Mhm.
So it's just like I mean I've always went to church and stuff like that, but as far as like like main scriptures that I've heard and stuff like that, I know that, but I want to be able to like how you did like reference the scriptures when I'm talking to people because it's like like you coming from like the word of God for real. So it's that's why I'm like, okay, maybe I can't understand this version of the Bible, but I can get something to where it's the same thing and it's more to where I can understand. And I'm actually like gonna like read a chapter before bed and like do stuff like
Mhm.
that. So
Mhm.
I do think I'm excited to get into that.
The more that you, because I don't know them off the top of my head, and that's
Mm-hmm.
okay. As long as you familiarize yourself with them and you stay in the book and you're processing it, so you can read something, but you could not take it and actually use it. So just
Right.
making sure that you're doing that. And start off slow. As long as you are, I tell people all the time, as long as you are building a relationship with God first, getting that there, everything else will come. Like the
Mm-hmm.
understanding will come. If you keep continuously pray for the understanding of the reading of His Word, then He'll bring that to you when in your time. Because in
Right.
some seasons we can't sit down and understand it.
Exactly.
So that's just something to think about there. Um, is it my turn?
No, I think it's my turn
Okay,
because you
go
asked me that. What was I doing?
ahead.
Okay. So, it's a little personal, but
Okay.
what is something? What is something? In your life or past that has happened to you? I know you spoke on sexual assault, but what is something, even if that's okay, but what is something that you've experienced that you feel like has took a toll like on you, like in regards to like relationships, like with before like before you found your like before you and your husband got together, like what do you think was something that you experienced that you realized like, okay, Kwana, like you're continuously doing this with other people, like to where it's like, okay, maybe it's me, like maybe I need
Mhm.
to do some self reflection. Like that question makes sense.
Yes. Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. So one of my things is abandonment.
Okay.
Real bad.
Mm-hmm.
Real bad.
For that.
Which
Mm-hmm.
stems from my dad when he went to prison.
Mm-hmm.
And me not necessarily having a say so in that, but just losing him for those, I think it was 5 years of not
Mm-hmm.
having him around and not being able to control that. It was very traumatizing for me while he was away because I would continuously cry and want him and I couldn't have him. So,
Right.
um, and that was not the first time. I mean, the only
Right.
time that I experienced abandonment. After that event, there were several people throughout my life that I got close with that through breakups, I had no say in any closure in that. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that is mindful for adults that bring kids into situations to be mindful of the relationship that the kid builds with that person and allowing them
Exactly.
to have the closure that they need to move forward because in turns me not having that was me dealing with abandonment again of, okay, this person's left me. I done built this connection with them and now they're gone, like again.
Right. Again, once
So,
again, yeah.
yeah. So when building relationships with anybody, with friends, with family, in relationships, in my past relationships, and I've dealt with it in my current too, of being afraid of people leaving me
Mm-hmm.
is like a constant. Like it's that is something that you have to renew your mind on as well. Understanding that regardless of what happens, being secure in just your relationship with God and knowing that that will always be there, regardless of who does what or goes where.
Mm-hmm.
Essentially, stay rooted in the fact that you have a father that will never leave you nor forsake you.
Right.
So, I think that is my biggest one is abandonment. And then also, which stems into that anxiety factor too.
Mm-hmm.
Because then
Yeah.
you're anxious
You're
of,
always anxious if trying to
yeah.
prepare yourself for stuff that hasn't even happened yet.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah, I definitely feel like abandonment is something that I am very, very big on. I feel like it's something that's actually one of the main things that when I wrote down, my therapist had me write down the things that I wanted to work on, like that was my number one because I feel like even with abandonment issues, it comes to where you tend to hold on to a lot of things and people that you shouldn't. And it's like I've realized in like my past relationships, I've held on, not saying they are bad people or anything, but I've held on to people and even friends that genuinely weren't for me
Hmm.
just because of the fear of being alone, just because of the fear of being left once again. And it's just like it's like you and it kind of gets to the point where like I said basically I was like I'm in my own way because it's like this person is not meant to be in your life, but you keep forcing it to be in your life, and that's why
Hmm.
things happen. That's where toxic relationships form, toxic friendships form. You know what I'm saying? So
Hmm.
abandonment is definitely something that I feel like is something that I'm working on like every day because
Hmm.
yeah,
I
yeah,
think
that's a big one.
too, and being in those situations too, being spirit led is important because some relationships, some friendships may be uncomfortable for you to step up and be a vessel or be a on assignment.
Mm-hmm.
So it may be uncomfortable at times, but of course, when it's a detriment to you, your future, um, if it's abusive or if it's verbally abusive, emotional abusive, or it's just somebody you know is there to be a scapegoat in your life, then of course I don't recommend staying in something like that. But recognizing, um, because in some instances, too, God will reveal some things about yourself. So it may not
Mm-hmm.
be necessarily the other person and and what they're doing or what they're doing behind your back or whatever like that. But God may reveal some things about yourself that may have taken him getting you to that point to sit to
And see
actually
it.
sit back and see
And see it.
in the mirror, like look in the mirror.
Mm-hmm.
Stop worrying about what's going on over
I feel
here.
like yeah.
Yeah. Like stop worrying about what's going on around you and look at yourself. What's going
Mm-hmm.
on the inside? Why are you allowing this? Why are you?
Tolerating this.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like why?
Yeah.
Why?
Like
Like
what's
what
the
is
real issue
going
here?
on?
So
What's
yeah.
the yeah?
Yeah.
And
So
that's actually like you said when you was like, what's the real issue here? I can say like, and like one of my like my past relationships or whatever, like I have sat down with myself and being like, bro, like I'm not gonna sit here and keep pointing fingers at him. Like this, it got to be something with me that's you know what I'm saying, like that's even allowing this or even tolerating this or even attracting this.
right.
Like why do I feel aligned with this? And then
Hmm.
I can say too I feel like people's upbringing has a lot to do with that too. I feel like with me, I've always like seen like chaos, and my family's always been like fighting, and then we make up or whatever the case may be. So I
Hmm.
became attracted to that. You know, I became
Hmm.
attracted to the chaos, and then like the making up or whatever. And I thought
Yeah.
that was normal or that was healthy, and I had to realize like that's you have to renew your mind. Like you have to change your way of what you saw. Like.
Yep. And God will put you in those very situations for you to realize that. And then, too, once you get in alignment, you never know if that person may get in alignment. It may have
Exactly.
taken you to be the example to change the heart of the other person.
Exactly.
So, yes, that was good. Okay. So what obstacles do you face when trying to renew your mind?
I would say I'm my biggest critic. So I'm always I'm my biggest critic, so I'm very hard on myself. I'm very hard on myself. I don't say like I'm not perfect nor do I try to be, but I'm very like I'm real like I don't put as much pressure on anybody else than I do myself, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So it's just like even when I can say like, oh, like for example, my accomplishments, like me getting a car, me getting an apartment, stuff like that, like even though that's like minor stuff, it's big to me. But I don't really be able to
Hmm.
sit with my accomplishments. Like I don't really the things
Hmm.
that I accomplish, I don't look at them as accomplishments. I'm more so like, okay, what's next? Gotta do this,
Right.
gotta do this. You know, I'm never really like sitting with that. And I feel like because of that, like self-love is the best love. So I say
Hmm.
because of that, I feel like that's really my biggest obstacle is with like being my biggest critic instead of being my biggest fan. Like it's like even the small wins matter. So it's like I
Hmm.
can have a good day and then I can tomorrow I have a bad day and I'll be like, dang, like ain't nothing working, but it's just like it's a process. Like you're gonna have
Right.
good days, you're gonna have bad days. So I think that's like my biggest obstacle is just being honestly in my own way, like being in my own head, criticizing myself when I really should be like loving on myself and hugging myself. So and that's also something that I realized too, like if you don't really like love yourself, you can't love other people. And they're gonna love you how you love yourself and what they
Exactly.
see. You know what I'm saying? So
Hmm.
I can't expect other people to love me or treat me the way that I'm not treating myself.
Exactly.
So that's my biggest thing with like my obstacles. It's like I genuinely feel like I'm in my own way. Like, I feel like once I learn to stop criticizing myself and loving what I look in the mirror, even if it's flawed or even if it's imperfect, I feel like it will like my healing journey will be a lot more easier because it's like
Hmm.
I won't be constantly like on myself, if that makes sense.
Hmm. Hmm. I can definitely agree with you there. I think that I'm my biggest critic as well. I think that I deal with people pleasing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when you're a people pleaser, it is hard for you to put yourself on a pedestal. I don't want to say pedestal, but to, acknowledge the things that you're doing because you're the person that always pushes everybody else to the forefront or try to make sure that everybody gets the recognition that they deserve. But what about
Right,
you?
right, right, exactly,
Yeah. And then too,
exactly.
when you said, I forget what you said, but the way that people treat you is a direct reflection of how you, you know,
Features.
yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
that's very true.
That's
Yeah.
very true. And
Yes.
I've learned too with that, I've learned that even even with me like saying that it's like sometimes like my previous relationships I have like felt like lonely in a sense.
Hmm.
Even and I'm just like it's kind of just like I feel like I'm giving you all this love and then I feel lonely in return. But it's because I'm giving you all this love. You get what I'm saying? And I'm not saving
Yeah.
any for myself. And I'm
Hmm.
literally putting you before me. I'm putting your
Hmm.
happiness, your feelings before my own. Like and I realize too, like that can create a downfall and that can create loneliness and sometimes insecurity with yourself because it makes you
Yep.
question yourself, like what's wrong with me? Like you
Hmm.
want me or am I not a good friend? Like whatever the case may be, it starts making you like question yourself. So
Hmm.
definitely reflection and being my biggest critic is something that I cannot wait to master.
You got it. You got it.
Yeah,
It's coming.
yeah. For
Hmm.
sure.
Yeah. So we'll let you ask the last question and then we'll close out.
My last question is something soft. Um, how are you mentally? Like, how are you right now today? If without even having to like be like, okay, I don't want to say nothing crazy, like genuinely, authentically, like, how are you mentally right now?
Anxious.
Anxious. Okay.
Very much.
Why?
I'm learning to let go,
Hmm.
and move forward and bask in my present rather than my
Hmm.
past. So rather than being the little girl that was abandoned, that was raped, that was betrayed over and over again, walking into a light of what I deserve, what I know I am, who I am, my worth, my value, the power that I possess, walking truly in that. And that's it. Like I know I'll never forget my past. I'm not saying to forget it, but it is okay to move past it. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm kind of in that transition. Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's a great answer. I love that.
Yeah.
I wish you very. I feel like that. I feel like I feel like that's a good feeling to have. I feel like it's a good feeling to have because it lets you know, like you said, this you're transitioning. You get
Yep.
what I'm saying? Like you are. It's uncomfortable, but you're at the point to where you're ready for better and you're ready to like overcome your past. So I feel like it's okay to feel like that because it's like it's very uncomfortable when you have to like really like face things that you've been through and then you're trying to like grow and elevate to become a better person. So
Mm-hmm.
it's a lot of pressure and it's just like I don't really know. Like it's scary. It's very scary.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like because you're in that moment, it's good because it lets you know like on the other side of that anxious is Quanah renewing her mind. So
Mm-hmm.
that's really good.
Yeah. And two, grieving the old version of yourself is a real
Mhm.
thing.
That is yes.
A real thing. And that is the process that I'm in right now is grieving. Just we hold on to like our trauma and being
hmm
a victim and basking in, oh, this happened to me and da da da. Which of course you feel that, yes. Feel the emotion, but we can't allow it to determine who we become.
Exactly.
It's
And I
very
feel like with grieving too, I feel like it comes with grieving comes with like letting go of things too. And I also feel like it comes with accepting like not being so angry at yourself for the things that you made to tolerate it or like to not
Mhm.
like not being so like upset with yourself. Like if you wouldn't have done this so long, we wouldn't be here. Like grieving is letting go all of that. Like
Yep.
it's letting go all that fall, all that blame on yourself. Like it's
hmm
literally letting go of all that. So
And in that toleration, right? There were probably things that were accomplished.
yeah.
There were probably successes, but we tend
hmm
to focus on, dang, I sat here this long and tolerated all this. But what growth did
what
come
came
from
from that. Right.
it?
Right.
That's
Right.
more so where our mindset needs to go, and thinking positive rather than marinating in the negative aspect of whatever it was.
what I went through. Yeah.
Hmm
And it like what did it teach me? What did I learn from it? What can I
Yeah.
gain from this rather than what did I lose or what did happen? Yeah.
Yeah. Yes.
I agree.
Well, I certainly appreciate you for joining me. I'm sure that we'll have you back.
Of
So
course. Of course.
I'll be in touch. We thank you for joining us. And then I always, at the end of our episodes, I like to give you guys a resource for therapy. So if you visit therapyforblackgirls.com, they do have a therapist directory for people or African American therapists in your area. So if you go on that website and put in your zip code or your state, it'll look for therapists within that area. So
And
let's
you
see.
also can look it up by your insurance too.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So happy healing to everybody. We doing this, we're working through this. We'll see you on the next episode. Thank you for joining.